Evan Cross moved quietly through the scrapyard of Vornis 12, his boots crunching against layers of broken metal and scorched debris under the pale orange sky. He had searched this wasteland for years, looking for anything valuable he could trade circuit. Cores, old tech, power cells, anything that hadn't been melted, rusted, or claimed by scavengers more desperate than him. His backpack was nearly empty, and he was about to give up when he spotted something odd near the edge of a collapsed shuttle bay. A long metal panel stuck out from beneath a mound of ash and twisted still, and something about the shape made him pause. Curious, Evan crouched down and brushed the debris aside. What he uncovered made his breath catch a full set of armor, blackened in places, but mostly intact, with the sharp, angled design of human military tech. It didn't match any standard soldier gear he knew, though. The plates were sleek, reinforced, with unknown alloy, and faint blue lines still pulsed across its surface, like it wasn't quite dead. He reached out, brushing his fingers along the shoulder plate, when the metal under his hand gave a low hum. A soft pulse of light shimmered from the chest piece. It was powered, still alive. His heart pounded as he looked around, no one in sight. The scrapyard was quiet, save for the wind whistling between heaps of wreckage. Carefully, Evan unlatched the helmet and turned it over in his hands. It was heavier than he expected, solid and battle-worn. But then, just as he slid the helmet into his pack, he felt the unmistakable sensation of someone watching him. He stood quickly, scanning the horizon. Nothing moved. Still, the pressure in his chest told him he wasn't alone. A cold voice, sharp as a blade, suddenly cut through the air behind him. "Put it back, or you're next." Evan froze, his body locked up. Every instinct screamed at him not to turn around, but he did, slowly, heart hammering against his ribs. Behind him stood a figure in full armor, tall, broad-shouldered, and dressed in black plating that shimmered in the dying sunlight. The visor hid their face, but the voice was female, calm but deadly. She held a rifle pointed at Evan's chest, finger hovering near the trigger. "That's not yours," she said. Evan raised his hands slowly. I didn't know," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "I thought it was junk, no power. Just old tech." "It's not junk," the woman snapped. "It's a war relic, and it's dangerous." Evan's mind raced. He had to get out of here. "I'll put it back," he said. "Right now. Just don't shoot." She didn't lower her weapon. "Step away from the armor," she ordered. Evan shifted slightly, inching toward his satchel. Slowly, the tone in her voice said she was ready to fire at the first sign of a trick. But Evan had one chance. In one smooth motion, he grabbed a small cylinder from his pack and slammed it on the ground. Smoke erupted instantly, thick and blinding. A warning shot cut through the air, narrowly missing his side. Evan coughed and stumbled, diving behind a broken engine core as the woman shouted after him. He didn't stop to listen. Scrambling through the wreckage, he ran deeper into the scrapyard, jumping over broken beams and sliding under jagged holes. He clutched the armor tightly against his chest, blood roaring in his ears. He didn't stop until he was far from the crash site. He was hidden inside a collapsed maintenance pod, breathing hard and drenched in sweat. Outside, the wind howled, carrying the faint sound of distant footsteps. She was still looking for him. Evan stayed quiet, barely breathing. Minutes passed. Then an hour. Eventually, the sound faded. He was alone again. Only then did he dare to open the pack and look at the armor. As he held the helmet again, the blue lines glowed more brightly. A soft chime rang out, and then, impossibly, a voice spoke from within the helmet. "Unit 9X online. Operator profile corrupted. Defaulting to nearest match. Welcome, Commander Cross." Evan stared at it, stunned. He wasn't a commander. He wasn't anyone, but the armor didn't seem to care. It had chosen him, and whatever it was, someone clearly didn't want it found. Evan didn't sleep that night, not even for a minute. As he sat in the hollowed shell of a dead cargo hauler, hidden deep in the scrapyard, clutching the strange, mercenary armor that now called him Commander Cross. The AI voice had gone quiet after the initial activation, but the armor remained warm, pulsing gently with faint blue light, like it was Ivor waiting. Every sound outside made Evan jump. Every gust of wind felt like footsteps, and he kept picturing the woman in black armor, still searching for him with her weapon ready. He kept replaying her voice in his head, cold, commanding, and serious. Whoever she wasn't bluffing. She wanted the armor back, and she would kill to get it. Evan didn't know what made this armor so important, but he knew enough to understand he had found something far bigger than old tech. Just before dawn, when the first dull light crept across the metal hills, Evan decided he couldn't hide forever. He needed answers. He placed the helmet back onto the chest piece and touched the side. 9, he whispered, remembering the name the AI had given. A pause followed. Then the same calm voice responded. Unit 9X, active, awaiting command. Input, Evan asked. What are you? Why did you call me Commander Cross? The AI paused, then replied, Operator file, corrupted. Voice print partially matches Commanding Officer Elias Cross. Nearest match, Evan Cross. Protocols defaulted. Access limited. Mission status, incomplete. Evan stared at the armor, stunned. His grandfather's name had been Elias Cross, a war hero from the early border conflicts. Could this armor have belonged to him? Is that why it responded to Evan? He didn't have time to find out. A shadow passed over the wreckage outside, followed by the sharp hiss of boots on gravel. Someone was close, very close. Evan quickly pulled the armor pieces into his satchel and crawled through a narrow opening at the rear of the hauler, heart pounding. He couldn't see the person, but he heard them footsteps, slow and careful, and the soft, metallic clicks of weapon gear. The woman in black was back. She hadn't given up. Evan moved low, keeping to the cover of old crates and shattered wing panels, making his way through the scrapyard like a ghost. But the woman was trained, experienced, and patient. Evan turned a corner, thinking he'd shaken her, and suddenly she was there, standing at the far end of the row, rifle raised. I warned you, she said, and the weapon charged with a hum. Evan didn't wait. He threw another smoke bomb and ran, ducking behind a broken land cruiser as she fired. The blast scorched the edge of the cruiser, sending sparks flying. Evan dashed into a tunnel of collapsed ship ribs, crawling through tight spaces, barely avoiding her shots. He knew he couldn't outrun her forever unless he had help. Hey, slid into a hidden alcove and whispered, 9, can you help me get out? The armor responded instantly. Tactical module available. Activating stealth assistance. One of the armor's shoulder pads unfolded slightly, revealing a blinking node. A light shimmer spread across Evan's jacket, blending him into the junk around him. Camouflage. It was basic, short range, but enough to give him a head start. With the stealth field active, Evan slipped from cover to cover, eventually reaching the old lift shaft that led to the lower wreck layers, places few dared to go. He jumped onto a hanging cable and slid down into the dark. The smell of oil and burnt circuits filled the air, and strange noises echoed in the distance. Rats, maybe, or something worse. The woman didn't follow. Not yet. Evan moved deeper into an old maintenance chamber and finally let himself breathe. The stealth field faded, and he collapsed against a wall, exhausted. 9. He whispered again. I need to know everything. What mission? What happened to your team? The AI hesitated. Unit 9X deployed unclassified mission. All records sealed. Partial data recovery possible. Would you like to begin retrieval? Evan nodded. Yes. Start. The armor's chest plate glowed brighter. Images flickered across a cracked screen maps, faces, calcines, flashes of battle in distant systems. Name repeated over and over. Project Nightglass. But before Evan could ask more, a red alert flared on the display. Warning. Hostile signal detected. Proximity alert. Unknown craft approaching. Evan jumped to his feet and ran to a nearby panel, lifting a rusted hatch to peer outside. Above, cutting through the scrapyard sky, a sleek, black dropship hovered. A spotlight swept over the ground. The woman wasn't working alone. Reinforcements had arrived. Evan ducked back down, trying to think. He needed to escape the scrapyard entirely. He remembered a rail tunnel that ran under the city ruins nearby. If he could reach it, he might find a way to the old outpost, maybe even send a message off-world. But getting there meant crossing open ground, and now there was a ship watching. Evan didn't have much time. "Kena," he said. "Kenda, armor run. Partial systems functional." The AI replied. "Mobility assist online. Warning. Full synchronization not achieved. Resk. Hi." "Do it," Evan said. The armor's pieces began to shift, clicking into place over his arms, chest, and legs. The helmet locked on last, and for a moment, everything went black. Then HUD symbols lit up across his visor targeting grids, terrain mapping, atmospheric readouts. His legs felt stronger, lighter. His breath came in sharp and clear. "System engage," Nyan said. "Operator, Evan Cross. Welcome." Outside, the dropship began lowering a squad of soldiers armored, fast, and well-armed. Evan moved like he had never moved before. He leaped from cover, using the suit's strength to push himself up wreckage piles, dodging the lights, slipping past patrols. A warning shot came from behind, and the squad shouted. Evan turned and ran, dodging between pillars of scrap, his feet barely touching the ground. The armor responded to every motion like it was part of him. At the edge of the yard, he saw the tunnel entrance, mostly buried, but still passable. He sprinted for it, just as a blast from above struck the ground behind him. The shockwave threw him forward, but he rolled, scrambled up, and dove into the darkness of the tunnel, just as bullets sparked off the metal walls around him. Silence followed. The enemy didn't enter. Maybe they were afraid of the tunnels, or maybe they wanted him to go deeper. Evan didn't stop to wonder, kept going, deeper into the shadows, the blue light of the armor leading the way. He had escaped 4 knobbed questions burned in his mind. What was Project Nightglass? Who was this woman, and why was she hunting him so hard? And why did this armor seem to know him better than he knew himself? He didn't have the answers yet, but he had the armor. He had the name, and now he had a mission. Evan moved deeper into the old tunnel, each step echoing in the dark as the soft blue lights from his armor lit the way forward, flickering off rusted pipes and collapsed beams that had not seen movement in decades. Dust swirled in the air, thick and dry, and the silence was broken only by the distant groan of metal shifting somewhere above. He kept moving, guided by instinct and the AI's faint voice in his ear, repeating, "Unknown environment. Caution. Advised. Structural integrity. Table." The suit made his steps lighter, faster, as if it knew how to balance every movement. Evan couldn't help but feel like a passenger in his own body. He had never trained for anything like this. Yet, the armor adjusted itself as if it remembered another body, another man, long gone. That thought chilled him. "9," he asked quietly, "what happened to your last operator?" The AI paused longer than usual. "Last known operator, Eli's Cross. Status, presumed terminated. Final data, logs corrupted." Evan clenched his jaw. His grandfather had vanished during a war nobody talked about anymore. Some said he had gone rogue. Others claimed he was betrayed by his own command. Evan's family never got answers, only a medal and silence. Now, the armor was unlocking pieces of a past buried on purpose. The further Evan walked, the more strange feelings crept into his mind, memories that weren't his. He blinked, and suddenly he saw Flash's gunfire in zero gravity, screaming in his helmet, orders shouted over static. Then it was gone, like smoke in the wind. He stumbled and grabbed a wall. 9. What was that? The voice came softer this time. Partial neural sync in progress. Operator memory link unstable. Side effects: visual bleed. Evan swallowed hard and pushed on. Up ahead, light leaked through a crack in the tunnel ceiling, showing a hidden chamber behind a broken blast door. He squeezed through and found a makeshift shelter on old camp, long abandoned. Data slates, broken comms, and a scorched table covered in holomaps filled the room. But there was something else too. A human skeleton slumped in the corner, wrapped in the remains of military gear. Dog tags hung from the neck. Evan reached out and turned them over. The name read, Sergeant Vale. His heart sank. The woman chasing him, Kareth Valekit. This had been her brother, her father. Ted explained her rage, her need to stop Evan from taking the armor. Maybe she thought he was disturbing the dead. Maybe she believed Evan had no right to carry this legacy. But he wasn't stealing anything. He had been chosen, or at least the armor believed so. He activated the dead sergeant's data slate, surprised to find one last entry still playable. The screen flickered, and a tired man's voice filled the space. To anyone who finds this, Project Nightglass was a lie. It promised peace. Instead, they sent us to die. Cross tried to stop it. Command turned on him. If you're hearing this, run, or finish what he started. The message ended in static. Evan sat back, mind racing. His grandfather hadn't been a traitor, he had been silenced. The armor wasn't just powerful, it was part of a secret mission, one that had gone horribly wrong. K9, Evan said, can you access any files from Nightglass? The AI hesitated, then replied, accessing now. Warning, fragments only. Playback begins. Evan braced himself as new images appeared across his visor. Orbital facility. Experiments with alien tech. Human commanders shaking hands with off-world diplomats. Explosions. Screams. The armor recorded everything. Project Nightglass. Classified Joint Initiative. Goal: weaponize recovered alien relics. Status: terminated with prejudice. All witnesses eliminated. Survivors: 2 confirmed. Lias Cross, Kareth Vale. Evan's breath caught. Vale had survived, just like his grandfather. That's why she wanted the armor. She didn't just see it as tech. It was evidence. It was memory. Evan stood up, fists clenched. He couldn't stay underground forever. He had to find Vale and show her the truth. Maybe she still thought he was the enemy, but if they had both lost someone to the same betrayal, maybe, just maybe, they could stop fighting. He climbed out of the shelter and back into the tunnel, following the signals 9 provided, heading toward the surface near the edge of the scrapyard. As he reached the top, the sky had turned blood red with evening light, and smoke rose in the distance. A ship had landed, and it wasn't friendly. Evan stayed low, moving through shadows. He spotted Vale near the crash site, speaking with a man in a command uniform. Evan zoomed in with his visor and heard pieces of their conversation. The man said, "We have to retrieve the armor. If it falls into the wrong hands, the truth comes out." Vale didn't speak right away. Her helmet was off. Her face looked tired, worn down by years of war and hunting ghosts. She finally said, "He's just a scavenger. If he dies out there, it's on you." The man laughed coldly. He's wearing the last working suit from Nightglass. If he recognizes him, he's not just anything. Evan backed away. They would kill him if they found him. He had to act fast. He sent a short burst transmission using the armors. Comes only one line. I know what happened to Sergeant Vale. Minutes later, as he waited under the collapsed wing of a star cruiser, Vale arrived alone. She pointed her rifle at him, but didn't shoot. Talk, she said. Evan stepped out slowly, helmet off, hands open. I found a data log, he said. Your brother, or father. His final message confirms it. Cross didn't betray anyone. He tried to stop the project. Like you. Vale's expression didn't change, but her eyes flickered with something close to pain. You shouldn't be wearing that suit, she said. You have no idea what it did, what it saw. Then show me, Evan said. Help me finish. It helped me stop the people still hiding this. Vale lowered her weapon slightly. The silence between them stretched. Finally, she said, one chance, one mission. If you run, I'll find you again. Evan nodded. He didn't run. Together, they vanished into the scrapyard night. Two survivors of a war no one remembered, carrying the last armor of a forgotten legacy and the buried truth of what really happened during Project Nightglass. Evan followed Kareth Vale through the broken wasteland beyond the scrapyard, where the sky was gray and the air smelled of ash and metal. Both of them walking in silence as old wind turbines turned lazily in the distance, creaking like ghosts from a forgotten age. The only sound came from the crunch of their boots over shattered glass and the soft hum of their suits' systems. And though Evan wore the old Nightglass armor, it no longer felt like a stolen thing. It felt like it had chosen him, and now it waited, almost expectantly, for the next storm to come. Vale had changed too. She no longer spoke with the same cold edge, though her eyes still carried weight, the kind that came from betrayal, death, and years of running from the truth. And Evan understood that kind of weight now. They reached an abandoned comms relay tower at the edge of the desert plains, its structure barely standing, its antenna bent but still blinking with weak red light. Vale tapped a control pad hidden beneath a rusted panel, revealing a secret lift that took them underground into a hidden command central. It's dusty, but still powered by some buried reactor humming deep below. The walls were lined with faded maps, photos of soldiers, and shelves filled with cracked data drives. And in the middle of the room stood a round table with a glowing blue map of the planet's surface, marked with red zones and blacked out sectors labeled restricted. Vale powered up the main screen, and images flickered to life pictures of ancient weapons, strange energy readings, and diagrams of suits like the one Evan wore, each one labeled with a number and a name. But most were listed as destroyed. Only two were marked active, his and one other. Evan leaned forward and asked, "Where's the second one?" Vale hesitated, then replied, "In the hands of someone who shouldn't have it, someone who helped bury the truth. And now, plans to use what's left to finish what Project Nightglass started." She brought up a picture of a man in sharp uniform with cold eyes and a thin scar across his jaw. General Lorne Halvik, once the head of the Nightglass Initiative, now the leader of a private army called Arcor, which operated in the shadows and answered to no government. "Halvik was the one who turned on your grandfather," Vale said quietly, "and now he has the last suit. The prototype built with alien tech. No one fully understood. If he activates it, there will be no one left to stop him." Evan felt something shift inside the armor, like it recognized the name, and Nine's voice echoed in his ear. "Threat identified. Priority target. Halvik. Strategic threat level. Maximum." Evan knew what he had to do. "Then we find him," he said. And Vale gave a small nod. They spent hours preparing, charging the suit's systems, uploading data, and studying old reports about our core movements. Vale showed him a hidden vault beneath the floor where she kept weapons scavenged over the years. And among them was a rifle that pulsed with a soft violet light. barrel etched with symbols, not of Earth. Hybrid tech, she said. Recovered from the original crash site. Only a few like it exist. Halvik has the rest. Evan took it and felt a faint vibration in his hand, like the weapon knew it was built for something greater than war. As night fell, they left the bunker and traveled across the plains on old hoverbikes, moving fast beneath the stars until they reached the ruins of an orbital elevator. Its broken tower stretching into the clouds, pieces of it scattered for miles around. Arcor had set up a base there, and Vale had intel that Halvik would be arriving soon to inspect the final stage of his plan, activating the prototype suit using a buried alien power core. Evan and Vale scouted the area from a ridge, watching. Soldiers in black armor unload crates of glowing equipment, and though they were outnumbered, they had surprise on their side in one working suit that could turn the tide. "You go in quiet," Vale said. "Disable their uplink, and I'll cover from the ridge. Once we find the core, we destroy your tour. Take it." Evan nodded and activated the armor's stealth mode, vanishing into the darkness as he moved silently through the wreckage, dodging patrols, climbing broken beams, and slipping past guards with inhuman precision, the suit guiding every step like it had done this 100 times before. He reached the uplink tower and disabled it with a short EMP burst, cutting Arcor's communication and throwing the base into confusion. Alarms sounded and lights turned red, but by the time soldiers arrived, Evan was already inside the command tent, staring at the glowing core pulsing, alive and dangerous. But before he could move, a voice called out behind him, "Cross." Evan turned and saw General Halvik standing at the entrance, wearing the second suit sleeker, darker and humming with power that didn't feel entirely human. "I should have destroyed that armor years ago," Halvik said, stepping closer. His eyes locked on Evan's. "But now I see maybe it was fate. One last test before we ascend." Evan raised his weapon, but Halvik moved faster than humanly possible, crossing the room in a flash and knocking Evan back with a strike that nearly cracked his helmet. The suits clashed, metal against metal, sparks flying, the old armor of legacy against the new weapon of ambition. Halvik fought like a machine, each move precise, deadly, and fueled by something more than human rage, something cold. But Evan had something Halvik didn't, a memory, a purpose, a connection to the man who once wore this armor, not for power, but for truth. As they fought, Nine fed Evan Patton's old tactics from Elias Cross's battles, countermeasures, weaknesses. Evan began to turn the tide, blow by blow, until Halvik growled in frustration and activated the core. Energy exploded outward, throwing them both apart, and the floor cracked beneath them. Vale's voice came over the comms. "Evan, the core's unstable. Get out now." But Evan stayed. He crawled to the control panel and began overriding the core's systems. Using Nine's guidance, inputting codes buried in the suit's memory. Halvik screamed and charged again, but this time Evan was ready. He used the alien rifle, firing a blast of pure light that struck Halvik's suit and shattered part of it, exposing the circuitry underneath. "You were never meant to wear that," Evan said, and with one final command, ejected the core from its housing and triggered its shutdown. Light flooded the chamber, and then silence. When Evan woke, the base was in ruins. Halvik was gone, and Vale stood over him, helping him to his feet. "You did it," she said. Evan looked around, the air still humming with leftover energy, and nodded slowly. But he knew it wasn't over. Halvik had escaped, and somewhere the rest of Night Class's legacy still waited in the dark, hidden, dangerous. Avon tightened his grip on the rifle and stared into the distance. The armor had chosen him for a reason. The mission wasn't finished not yet. The fires started before dawn, glowing deep orange across the black hills of Cairn Reach as smoke curled into the pale sky like the claws of something ancient rising from the earth. And Evan watched it, all from the ridge beside Vale, his visor darkened against the heat, his hands tightening around the grip of his alien rifle while the night glass armor hummed low, almost like it was warning him that the worst was still ahead. Below them, the once hidden city of Karan Risha, quiet place of miners, traders, and forgotten settlers, now burned under the control of Arcor forces. Black transports circling above like vultures, while squads of armored soldiers swept the streets looking for someone or something, and Evan knew exactly what they were after. "They're hunting," Vale said quietly, adjusting her scope as she tracked movements through the smoke. "It's not fighting. This is controlled. To clean." Evan nodded, his mind racing with what they had learned since the fight with Halvika about the prototype suit he wore. The stolen alien core and the encrypted files Vale had recovered from an old satellite link. Files that spoke of something buried beneath Karn Reach, something Arcor needed for their next step. It wasn't just about the suit anymore. They were looking for an artifact called the Spine, a command relay built by the same unknown species whose wreckage had sparked Project Nightglass years ago. And whoever controlled it could link with every suit like Evan's turning soldiers into a hive, a silent army connected through thought and action, unbreakable. Halvik wanted it, and he was here. Evan felt the armor respond to his thoughts, lights pulsing near his neck, as if it could sense the artifact too, as if it remembered something from its past life. And he whispered, "9, do you feel it?" The AI answered softly, "Signal. Resonance detected. Source confirmed. Karan Reach. Artifact designated. Spine." Vale stood up and pulled the hood over her head. "We get in fast," she said. "No backup, no time. Arcor will level this place if they can't get what they want." Evan followed her down the rocky slope, both of them weaving through smoke and wreckage as they approached the outer district, moving building to building while avoiding patrols and drones. The air was thick with heat, and the sky was dim with ash, but Evan's mind stayed sharp, guided by Nine's voice, feeding him maps and paths through the chaos. They reached the edge of an old tunnel system beneath the city, once used for mining but now sealed by blast doors. And Vale worked fast to bypass the locks while Evan stood guard, watching 2 Arcor soldiers drag a shouting man from his home, their voices muffled by helmets, as one said, "Tell us where the Spine is, or your family disappears next." The man spat at them, and they knocked him out. Evan wanted to help, but Vale said, "We can't save everyone, not yet." The doors opened with a hiss, and they slipped inside. Underground, the tunnels were dark and cool, lit only by the soft lights from Evan's suit, and the deeper they went, the more strange the walls became. Smooth, curved, marked by symbols that didn't belong to any human tool or tongue, and Evan's heart beat faster. The suit vibrated gently as they neared a circular chamber where the walls pulsed with faint blue veins of light. And in the center stood the Spina tower of black metal reaching into the ceiling, humming with power, untouched for who knew how long. Vale stared at it with wide eyes. "They found this and didn't tell anyone," she said. "This is what Cross tried to stop, connecting human minds to something we don't understand." But before they could move, a loud clatter echoed behind them, and from the darkness stepped Halvik, flanked by 4 Arcor soldiers in modified suits, each one carrying heavy weapons and glowing with red light across their chests. Halvik's armor had been repaired, darker now, etched with strange new patterns, and his voice was calm. "I told you we'd meet again, Cross," he said, ignoring Vale as he stepped closer. "And you brought the original suit. How fitting that the past returns to see the future rise." Evan stepped in front of the Spine, raising his weapon. "You won't link it," he said. "I've seen what happens when it controls your mind, isn't yours anymore." Halvik laughed. "You still think small? This isn't about control. It's about unity. Humanity has failed itself for centuries. But with this, we become something more. He raised his hand, and his soldiers moved forward. But Vale tossed a small sphere into the air, a pulse grenade that burst with white light, shorting out nearby sensors. In the flash, Evan charged forward, crashing into one of the armored soldiers, knocking him down with enhanced strength from the suit, his punches landing with thunder. The chamber became a war zone, gunfire and smoke filling the air as Vale rolled into cover and picked off enemies with deadly precision, while Halvik activated part of the spine, causing the chamber to tremble as blue lightning danced across the walls. Evan fought 2 more soldiers, his armor adapting with each strike, shielding his weak spots, reading enemy patterns, but Halvik was already interfacing with the core. His hands pressed to its surface, eyes glowing faintly as alien symbols flowed across his visor. 9. Stop him, Evan shouted, and the AI replied, initiating counterlink warning. Connection unstable. Evan dashed through the chaos and slammed into Halvik, breaking the link just as the tower surged with energy, sending both of them flying. The power inside the spine was waking up, and the chamber began to collapse. Vale shouted over the comms, Evan, we have to overload it before it spreads. Evan crawled to the terminal, blood on his face, vision shaking, and began inputting override codes stored deep in 9's system. Codes left behind by Elias Cross. Halvik lunged again, but Vale fired a blast into his suit's leg, staggering him. Evan, she screamed. Evan hit the final command. The spine began to glow, its lights turning red, and a deep hum filled the chamber. Core destabilizing, 9 said. Evacuation required. They ran as the spine cracked apart, sending waves of heat and pressure through the tunnels, and, behind them, Halvik screamed in rage as the energy overloaded his armor, consuming him in a burst of light. The tunnels shook, fire chasing them as they reached the surface and dove behind a fallen transport just as the ground split open. A tower of flame rising where the spine had once stood. The fires of Quran reached now roared higher, but the artifact was destroyed, and Halvik was gone, at least for now. Evan lay on his back, panting, staring at the dark sky, the suit flickering with damage, but still functional. Vale sat beside him, her face covered in ash, her voice quiet. You stopped it. Evan didn't answer right away. He looked at the horizon, where our core forces were retreating, and knew it wasn't over. The secrets of Nightglass ran deep, and whatever they had destroyed today was only one piece. The winds howled across the broken lands beyond Karn reach, scattering ash and dust like old memories. As Evan stood alone at the edge of the scorched ruins, the Nightglass suit darkened from battle, but still alive, humming quietly like it knew the journey was almost over, but not quite finished. The fires had died, the spine was gone, and the Arcor troops had pulled back into the shadows. But Evan knew better than to believe this was victory. It felt more like the pause before a new storm. The quiet moment when everything held its breath, waiting. Vale was gone, vanished into the wastelands after the spine's destruction, leaving only a short message on a secure channel. You have to finish it, Evan. He's not dead, and neither is what made him. 4 days, Evan searched the ruins, the suit guiding him to hidden bunkers, shattered labs, scorched black boxes where fragments of old data revealed a darker truth. Project Nightglass hadn't ended when Elias Cross died, and Halvik hadn't been the last one to touch the alien tech. Deep beneath the planet's crust, something else remained. Something that hadn't woken yet, but would soon. And Evan felt its pull like a distant voice, whispering through the suit, calling to what was left of its buried code. 9. The AI. It changed, too, no longer spoke in cold commands, but in tones that felt almost human, shaped by Evan's thoughts and memories, adapting as if the armor was becoming less a weapon and more a part of him. It no longer belonged to the cross. Family legacy belonged to him. One night, while scanning an old relay tower on the far edge of the burn zone, Evan picked up a hidden signal low, steady, coded with a pattern that matched the alien energy once used in the Spynand when he decrypted it. The message was clear. You are not the last. It came with coordinates leading to a mountain range forgotten by most maps, a place where cold ruled and light struggled to break through the thick clouds, and Evan didn't hesitate. He crossed the wastelands on a battered hoverbike, the rifle slung across his back, the suit keeping him warm in the freezing wind, his thoughts a storm of questions. When he reached the location, he found a hidden valley surrounded by jagged cliffs, where strange stone markers jutted from the ground, like teeth in old ruins whispered of something not built by human hands. The entrance was hidden behind a frozen waterfall, the ice melting at his touch as the suit's systems interacted with the buried tech behind it, revealing a long, dark tunnel lined with lights that blinked on one by one as he walked, slow and steady, deeper into the earth. At the end, he found a vault, not a prison, but a chamber of silence, where another suit stood, waiting in the center. Taller than his, sleeker, more refined, and pulsing with faint blue light. Around it, faint images flickered, ghosts of memory, fragments of data from those who had come before, including one that made Evan stop, a figure in old armor, scarred, the proudly lies cross. The message played only once. If you're seeing this, it means the world didn't end, but it will try again. And this time, you must choose who you are, not just a soldier, not just a name. This suit is not for legacy. It is for the one who earns it. Evan stepped closer, and the suit responded, scanning him, testing him, judging him not by blood, but by action. And after a long silence, it opened, not to replace his armor, but to upgrade it, merge with it, evolve it. When Evan stepped inside, everything changed. The darkness vanished, the valley shook, and in his mind, new voices stirred an age, vast, watching. He saw visions, not of Earth, but of a war long ago, fought not with ships or bullets, but thought and will, where minds were linked across galaxies, and the price of power was the loss of self. The suit had once been part of that network, but it had broken away, hidden here, waiting. Evan awoke hours later, standing where the chamber once was, now buried by fallen stone. The valley sealed forever behind him, and in his hands was a new weapon, not the alien rifle he had carried, but something simpler, shaped like a blade, humming with energy, responding to thought alone. He tested it once, and it moved like it had always been part of him. 9 was still there, but different, merged with something older. We are one now, it said quietly, but you must lead. Evan turned to leave the valley, and as he stepped into the snow, alerts lit up in his helmet. Our core was moving. Again, Halvik's energy signature had returned, but twisted, wrong, spread across multiple sites, as if the alien code had infected more than just him. Project Nightglass had fractured, and its pieces were now being used to seed new hosts, new experiments in secret labs across the outer systems. Evan stared at the horizon, the cold wind blowing across his new armor, and understood what had to happen. This wasn't about legacy or revenge anymore. It was about stopping what his grandfather couldn't before the infection spread. For the old war started again, and this time Earth stood at the center. He walked into the storm, the suit silent around him, but inside it burned with purpose. He had no flag, no army, no orders, just a mission, a suit of his own. And whatever came next, he was ready.